everybody, and welcome to another Adventures in Truth livecast. My name is Jim Case, and I am your host. Welcome to the show. Adventures in Truth livecast. We dive into topics, the things that we consider the truths, the foundations of the human experience, and really dive deeply into those topics to help kind of dissect them, but also to bring a new level of understanding or a new viewpoint to many of these beliefs and ideas that we hold so true. And today is going to be an awesome conversation. My guest today is Eric Levinson. He's been on before. We're going to talk about health, but in particular, we're going to be looking at stepping up to wellness and navigating the path of health. Both of us have experienced some pretty amazing and powerful shifts in our own lives and disease process, and thought it would be a great conversation to help people understand the evolution of how you move from an illness state to a wellness state. So going to be a great conversation. Very much looking forward to it. Eric will be joining in just a moment. But before we begin, as you can see in my backdrop, the book release celebration has begun. Yesterday, the 29th of September, was the official release date of my book, Fear is a Choice, Unraveling the Illusion of Our Separation from Love. And first, I want to say thank you to all who participated. It was a wonderful, wonderful celebration. Of course, we did it online. And if you'd like to see the celebration, it is pinned at Adventures in Truth Facebook page and also the Science of Transformation Facebook page. It was a terrific, it was about an hour of celebrating, talking about the book, reading some reviews, having some guests on. It was really awesome. Thanks to everybody out there who's ordered. For those of you who pre-ordered, many of you shared your receipts with me or shared with me that Amazon updated you and your book is going to be shipping and you'll be getting it in the next week or so. So excited for that. Can't wait for you to hear how you're enjoying it and the impact that it has, and getting your feedback and reviews as well. So this book will change your life. I firmly believe that, and here's why. I believe it because what I know is when you change your relationship with fear, it changes your life. It changes everything in your life. Because we don't recognize how deeply embedded into a fear consciousness we are entrained through the course of our lives from birth and until we become old enough to understand it. So what this book will do is really focus you in understanding the evolution of fear, not only within the construct of the culture, but looking at it as an evolution within our own experience, how it's used, how it's manipulated, how we use it, and how we use it within our own consciousness, and then ways and stories and support mechanisms for how do I shift, how do I disengage from that foundation and get engaged in the foundation of opportunity or engage in a foundation of potential. Because again, when you shift that relationship, when you change that relationship, your vision goes from a much closed space to a much more open space, which means that the potential and possibilities that are available to you are much greater and much more powerful. So head over to www.adventuresintruth.com. All of the links are there for Amazon and Barnes & Noble, IndieBound. It's even on Kindle. Get your order in, and love to hear from you about how you enjoy the book. And we're going to dive in here in just a sec. Sorry, I'm looking at my board here to make sure I'm all paying attention. And we'll be back right after this with my friend Eric. All right. Good morning, Eric. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Jim.
Welcome back to the show.
Thanks.
Great to have you back again. How are you?
Doing wonderful, thanks. How are you this morning?
Good. I am doing well, thank you. Excited to have this conversation. Excited to kind of share, as we talked about, share what the evolution of going from a kind of an illness-based experience to a wellness-based experience, what that's about, and what it takes to get there from here. Love to hear your thoughts about how we navigate this today and where we might begin, but just sort of give an overview from your perspective of what you want to transmit today and what you want to share with people.
Yeah, well, obviously, I'm not a politician, and Yeah.
Like, I didn't think this was a political show.
Well, the timing of everything and what's going on in the world and what happened last night, um,
Unbelievable.
and the messaging of your book, which is, I think, so incredibly important right now. Because the reality is that I think that as a society, fear is the primary motivator. And I worked with a coach who had this incredible metaphor, and she would draw a stick figure, and she would, have you like put all the list all the things you're afraid of, like on one side of the paper. And then, if that's what's motivating you, but you're trying to go this way or the other way. Sorry, the mirror thing here. But you're trying to run away from the stuff you're afraid of, but the fear is the motivator. You're just focusing on the things you're afraid of, and you can't see where you're going. You're looking behind you, right? You're looking to see that bear chasing you, how close they are, and you have no idea where you're going. Trip over something, run over a cliff, whatever. And I think that the way that we have been kind of conditioned with fear as the primary motivator for doing anything about our health, right? We just kind of ignore the symptoms or take something over the counter until it gets so bad that we're afraid it could be something really dangerous. And then in that state, we are forced to make decisions about our health. And it's not a good state to be in to make any decision.
Agreed. I saw a commercial yesterday that it wasn't a commercial. I'm sorry. It was about the COVID thing, and they were saying that the top top four things you can do about washing your hands and wearing a mask and social distance, and maintain your relationship with your doctor.
Right.
And I was like,
Yeah.
What?
Right.
What? Suddenly, having a relationship with your doctor is going to make a difference between whether you get sick or not. What?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Makes
Yeah.
no sense.
Yeah. I mean, what is a relationship with a doctor nowadays? It's, they might recognize your name from the chart, and then, they look and say, oh, you're on these medications. And, I mean, that's pretty much as far as the conversations tend to go.
Yeah.
And, if we're in fear and feel helpless, I mean, well, then, like, what else do we have to go on? And, this amazing quote that I heard recently is just like, when we decide to take responsibility for everything in our life, that's when we start living our best possible life.
Love that. And on that note, actually, we're gonna transition here so we can get everybody on the same page with us. We're going to take a moment to focus, and I like to do this with every show. It just gives us a chance for the viewers out there, for us here, we just kind of all get in the same energy flow and get grounded and centered and present in now. And whether you stay here and watch the show after, which we'd love you to, the whole point is here is an opportunity to really get grounded in now and focus. So let's take a moment to do that. And Eric will bring you right back. We're going to two things. We'll start this process, and especially because we're talking about wellness. The foundation of this process, and we'll be talking about this more, is what I see in my own structure in the pyramid of wellness is the use of breath, and using breath to create this foundation for our experience, because breath is everything. Breath is I mean, in the many words that you can use about it, prana and ki and chi and life force and all the things that we think about with regard to this energy that we take in and breathe all day long. And because breath is the thing that we do all day, every day, that it would make sense to be conscious of that process to some degree, but also have a relationship with that process so that you can manage the breath. And in doing so, you create this incredible foundation because you're bringing in tons of new energy, you're shifting state, and it's allowing you then to help the mind roll into that support system instead of the ego running the mind show. And it goes on and up, but we don't have to get into all that right now. But what I'd like you to do right now is just find a comfortable position wherever you are. If you're sitting, standing, laying, whatever it is, make sure your feet are flat on the ground, connecting to the earth, connecting to a solid foundation. And I want you to close your eyes or create a very soft focus. A nice deep breath, and just bring yourself present with your body in this moment. And as your eyes are closed or soft focused, I want you to bring all of your awareness into your body. Whatever that means for you, however that feels for you, just feel all of your awareness moving into your body, focusing it in your chest right now, into the heart space. Just bring all awareness to that area of your body. And just feel the breath, feel the body, feel the heartbeat. Be aware of the blood moving. And just let that awareness travel through your body. Consciously choose to bring that awareness out of the heart, bring it up to the top of the head. Feel your way around the inside of your own head. Just be aware. Don't try to judge it or figure it out. Just follow my words and let your consciousness follow. It will do that. And your awareness is filling your head. You're aware of your sinuses and your mouth and your throat, all of the apparatus in there. You don't have to get super detailed. Just become aware of how it's feeling. What's the experience from the inside? Let that travel down your neck, into your shoulders, and be aware of the musculature. Be aware of the connective tissue. Be aware of your bones. How do they feel? Let that awareness travel down your arms and down your chest, taking it into your hips. And gentle movement. Notice that as you're shifting that awareness, as that awareness moves through your body, there's a desire to just sort of gently sway and move. As the awareness moves down the legs, you just have this desire, this feeling of movement as that awareness is traveling down through your feet. And now we're going to do an amazing little trick here where I want you to be in all awareness of your entire body at this moment. Notice that you can be in complete awareness of the entire experience right here, right now. And now, bring that focus back to your breath. Coalesce that focus into the chest and into the heart space, and just be aware of how you breathe. Do you find that your breath is deep? Do you find you pull your breath down into your belly? Does your breath go up into your chest? Is it a 360-degree breath, meaning does it expand in all directions, or does it just lift in the chest or pouch in the belly? All right. Now we're going to focus on the breath. We're going to use a controlled breathing process. We're going to breathe in through the nose to a count of 4. At the top, we're going to rest, relax the body, and then we're going to disengage and we're going to purge all that air and energy out of the mouth for a count of 6. And then at the bottom, we're going to rest in the emptiness for a moment, getting comfortable in the void, and then engage and breathe, lifting, filling completely the count of 4, again at the top, and then releasing to 6 and at the bottom. So focusing all of that awareness into the chest, into your breath, I want you to begin inhaling. 2, 3, full, feel. 4, completely full at the top. Relax the shoulders, relax the body, and then release from the mouth. Pushing all that air out. 2, 3, 4, 5, pushing it all the way out, all that stale energy and air, and then relax the body completely in the emptiness. Engage the breath again, inhaling. 2, 3, 4, we're at the top, we're relaxed, we're full, and then we're releasing. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, resting into the emptiness. Engaging the lungs, engaging the breath, inhaling. 2, 3, 4, we're full, but we're relaxed. And we release. 2, 3, 4, 5, moving all of that energy in air, and 6, and we rest in the emptiness. And you continue this pattern on the own for another couple rounds of breath. Just being in that awareness, feeling the power of that breath as you completely fill, as you consciously relaxed in your fullness. And as you use your voice and your energy, pushing and moving all of that old air, stale air and energy out of the lungs, coming to a place of peace and rest in the emptiness, carrying it on, building that relationship within you, that relationship with your breath, completely full and then completely empty. In all places, you are safe. In all places, you are complete. And as you continue that breath for another round or two, take these words in, let them wash over you. Let the experience move through you. I am the evolution of God realized as matter. I inform and guide that expression as the pure expression of God. I show up as God. I connect as God. I align as God. I am creation realized. And from that, I create, expand, and engage. I am. And as you let those words wash over you, keeping connected to the breath, just allow your awareness now to come back out, to open up as you take in this moment, as you embrace this moment, and this moment, and this moment. Bringing your awareness fully back to present. When you're ready, open your eyes and join us as we begin to navigate this incredible conversation about stepping up to our wellness. All right, we are back and ready to go. Whoops. Mr. Eric, let's talk about, we were talking about stepping up to wellness or navigating the path to health. And the first part of that that I want to dive into is this idea of the choice of words, stepping up to wellness. To me was a very conscious choice because wellness isn't something you happen into. Wellness is like everything, I think, in the consciousness journey is a thing that you consciously step into, like we were just doing with the breath. You consciously step into that process. But stepping up to wellness is what you were referencing in the beginning, which is we're so entrained to fear in the process of our own well-being and our own health that in order to find the wellness band, in order to find that energetic, that space, we got to kind of elevate. We got to get our vibration out of that illness place, in energy, in our consciousness, in the way we're approaching things. That's how I see it. I would love to hear what your thoughts are of what stepping into wellness or stepping up to wellness looks like or feels like.
Yeah. I hear this often where people will say, oh, when I feel better, I'll, take care of my health, right? I'll, start a program, I'll hire a coach, I'll make changes when I feel better. And then, I just have to wonder, like, well, so what is going to happen that you're all of a sudden going to feel better if you're not willing to make any changes? And so it takes concerted effort to say, okay, I'm not satisfied with the results I'm getting with my life. And if I don't know what to do differently, I need to ask for help. I need to seek guidance. I need to step up and say, okay, you know what? I realize what I'm doing is not working. How can I do this differently? And for most of us, that means looking and seeing, like, hey, well, what worked for other people?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows how to guide this process? And how can I get started? A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. And I think for most people who are so stuck in their current situation that, we actually start to become addicted to the hormones, the chemicals that come from fear and anxiety.
Yeah.
And so you need someone to reflect back what you are projecting so you can fully evaluate and say, hey, wow, is that how I want to show up in the world? Because if not, it's time to make some changes.
I love what you're saying here, because the personal responsibility piece, and I think the thing I want to talk about that, but I want to lay a foundation here that one of the challenges with understanding how to shift from illness to wellness, in the consciousness of illness, and this is really critical, when you are in that consciousness, you are in a place of victimhood. You're in a place of disempowerment, because that's part of the training that's happened throughout the course of our lives. Very few of us have gone through this life experience that we haven't been entrained into the disease process that is our medical establishment. I'm not saying that the medical establishment isn't useful and isn't powerful, but the consciousness of it is a disease focus, not a wellness focus. So for all of us, for me, and being 50 something, we grew up with that consciousness of not being in charge of our own health, that consciousness of not being responsible for our own health because somebody else knows more and knows better, and not being in touch with my body. So the reason I'm saying all this is I want to be clear that there is no demonization of illness going on in this process. We have no desire to make you feel worse. If you feel worse by virtue of this conversation, that is within your own consciousness that's happening, and it's important to understand, because it's simply all choice when it comes down to it. You can feel absolutely miserable and still choose to find wellness, even if you have no idea how to get there from here. Just by virtue of taking the ownership of it and saying, I know I can make a difference. That's the first step. And it still may feel horrible, and it still may feel awful, and you still may feel sick as hell. And that ownership right there creates that spark inside of you that begins to grow as you feed it. So feeding that is the thing that we want to focus on. And so really hear us as we're talking, because we want to break this out in the finest detail as we can to really help people understand that all of those feelings, all of those things are part of illness consciousness. And we want to help you understand how that you can shift that. So I hope that's a good clarification piece, but that really struck me as you were talking, Eric. It was really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Because this isn't about blame.
Never.
Yeah, it's not about blame, because the reality is that if we're stuck in that state, we're still in blame.
Isn't that a paradox?
Yeah.
That's a crazy paradox.
Yeah.
So let's say stepping up to wellness then. Stepping up just simply means I'm stepping up to me. I'm stepping up to ownership of what's happening within this vessel. Again, it isn't blame, it's ownership. It's a whole different ballgame.
Right.
Ownership is just saying, if I own it, I have the ability to change it. If I don't own it, I have no ability, I have no power in the game, because my power is somewhere over here with the doctor or somewhere. And again, not saying that doctors aren't important in the process, because if you're in an acute state, sometimes that's necessary. You need to have somebody who can intervene to create a break in the cycle that's going on there. But then you have to move back to center and come back to that ownership of self.
Absolutely. Yeah. Western medicine has incredible power. If I get hit by a bus, please don't take me to the acupuncturist or to your neighbor's essential oil meetup. Take me to the hospital. But as soon as I'm able to eat without a tube, get me out of there. Right? That is where there's a line in the sand. And when it comes to chronic illness, most of us, we're trained to just go around and look for somebody who is going to take responsibility for telling us what the problem is, telling us how to fix it, and whether or not there is a way to fix it. Mm-hmm. We give away all of our power.
On the other end of that spectrum, and we're gonna connect these dots from one end to the other, but I want to share. I was just at my doctor 3 days ago, and just going for my regular kind of, I want to get blood work done and see where things are at. But it's so interesting because my relationship with my doctor is not me sitting back waiting for her to tell me what's going on. My relationship with my doctor is, this is what I'm experiencing. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I noticed about those habits that are happening. This is what I've been feeling. And I don't know that they're connected, but I definitely noticed that when this happens and this happens, this other thing happens, and it feels very uncomfortable and, blah, blah, blah. But I don't try to be a doctor, but I try to be as informative as I can of what's happening in my vehicle, in my vessel. And then I offer what I think this is, if she says, well, maybe we should do this, I'm going to tell her exactly how I feel about that. If that is about taking a shot that I don't want, I'm going to say, yeah, no, is there another option? Is there some other way I can approach this?
Right.
Because, like for instance, she wanted to give me a flu vaccine. And I said, no, thank you, but no. And she smiled and she said, okay, because we've had this conversation before. And I said, this has nothing to do about being an anti-vaxxer. I've not had a flu vaccine in I don't even know how long. So why would I start now? My body apparently is doing okay. And if I get the flu, I get the flu. But that's not, getting the flu is not a predetermined condition. It still requires an energetic space for that to show up in my body.
Yeah.
So sorry, I'm getting way ahead of the curve here. So we're going to reel it back in. And on the other side of our break coming up here, right after the break, Eric is going to chat with you guys for a few minutes and share his amazing work with you and how you can reach out to him. And then when we come back, we're going to get into more of the detail of where Eric started in his own process and how he moved from that illness consciousness and what it took to get to this wellness space. So bear with us. We'll be back in less than 30 seconds as soon as I find my button.
Hi, everybody. My name is Eric, and I've been a health coach and a practitioner now for almost a decade. And that was after, about 5 years or so of my own process where, the options that I was being given were not in alignment with where I wanted to be. And so what I do with my clients when I'm offering to everybody here that's listening that maybe is looking for something different is that we start by choosing an outcome. We might not know exactly how to get there, and that's okay, because then the process can begin. If we know where we're going, we can plug that destination into our GPS, and then we can find the route. But if we start with a process, we don't know where that's going. We don't know what our destination is. We're no longer in control of our own destiny, and we are out of control. And so a part of the healing process is taking responsibility for who we are, where we're going, and then knowing that we are completely responsible and for all of the results that we get. And if we're not happy with the results that we're getting, we have to try something different. And so that's where I'm coming from. That's what it took for me to resolve all of my health issues, that when I was just following processes and systems and methods, they just kept me running around in circles, and I wanted to get off the treadmill. And so now I'm in a place where I'm in control of my health. I'm in control of my entire life. It may not be perfect, and that's okay, because it's a process, it's a journey. And so if you're struggling to know where to start, we can have that conversation. It's a free conversation. There's no obligations. Go to my website, ericlevinson.com. You'll see there's a tab that says apply. You'll be able to give me a little information about who you are, where you've been, where you're going, and what you want. And then we can talk about that. And if it makes sense, we can work together. And if not, you're going to get value out of that conversation, because you're going to find ways to get started. So that's who I am. That's how I show up in the world. That's how I can be here in service to you. If that resonates, I look forward to speaking with you. And you'll see that this process is not about knowing all the answers ahead of time. It's about being present with yourself, with your desires, with your goals, and with having that love for yourself and compassion that it requires to actually do what it's going to take.
And I will tell you from personal experience, I have utilized Eric's service. It was an amazing experience. Our discovery process was quite remarkable because he asked questions that I had no idea the answer to, that I should have had the answer to, and in that discovery process was extraordinary, because we came to, both of us in that conversation came to the same destination, because it's a place to open up and really share who you are. So go to that www.ericlevinson.com, check him out. You can schedule your appointment. It's free. You'll really thank yourself, because he's an amazing man and does amazing work. And there's all kinds of testimonials all over the place about the impact that he has had in people's lives, and what happens when you step up and take responsibility. So please avail yourself to that. I'm blessed to have him on the show, and I'm excited to carry on this conversation. So, Eric, our journeys. Let's talk about this. Let's see. We have we can go for a little while here. Consciousness and illness. Let's talk about. Let's just talk about the process. We'll start with you. We went from that illness place, which you alluded to a wellness place. Talk about your journey and what that's been like.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how unique my experience was, but when I was much younger, 20 years ago, it was very clear that my health was not good. However, I didn't have any basis of comparison, so I really didn't understand that I was not where I could be, and that continued. And after college, I was still on my parents' health insurance until age 26. And up until that point, it was easy for me to go to a doctor, get a pill for this pain or that issue or whatever. And then suddenly that option wasn't available anymore. And I was just kind of left floating. And I had already started to make some changes, mostly out of peer pressure and things like that. But now it was just do or die.
What kind of things were you experiencing physically? What was happening in your process?
Well, I wish I still had hair, if I had figured this stuff all out a long time ago. That was one thing. I'm losing my hair very young, and chronic pain, where that didn't make any sense. I didn't have injuries. I wasn't old, and things hurt all the time for no reason, just randomly, and sometimes they didn't hurt. I don't know what I did differently. And it goes on and on. The anxiety, the depression, the digestion problems that had been plaguing me since I was a child. And that's, it was the running joke in our family that, we all had such bad digestion. And it was, really getting to the point where it wasn't just a joke anymore. It was serious. There was problems happening here. And doctors would say, hey, you're young, you're healthy, there's nothing wrong with you. Maybe you just need some antidepressants. And that just wasn't where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So that started me on this journey that, I decided, okay, well, you know what? I can't keep putting the responsibility onto doctors or experts or, anyone else. I had to take responsibility for myself. So I started reading and taking courses and experimenting, trying everything. And if there's something out there that's worked for somebody else, I've tried it and maybe got some results, maybe didn't, but I'm results driven. If it's getting me where I want to go, I keep with it. If not, what's next?
Eric, can I ask a question here while you're talking about this? Something that strikes me that I struggle with, in particularly in well, it's true probably of most communities, but I know in the spiritual community, there's sort of this scattershot approach, meaning I'm going to do 27 different modalities and fix myself, and then 6 months later going, why do I feel worse? Why am I not better? Why am I not, and that scattershot approach. It sounds like you were meticulous in let's try that. This one sounds really good. I'm going to explore this thread until I see what the result is. I'm going to explore this. After that's done, I'll assess my result. Then I'm going to explore this thread because I have this other thing going on. Is that legitimate, or did you find?
Yeah,
what's
absolutely.
your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, think about like like Friday the 13th, right, when the victim is getting cornered.
Mm-hmm.
And they just start reaching and throwing anything they can at the bad guy. And I definitely, I see that. And, and I have people that, they're exploring working with me, but they're not ready to let go of other things that they're doing or other practitioners they're working with. And I say, okay, great. Well, if it's working for you, please just continue. I don't want to get in the way of that.
Right.
But if at some point you decide what you're doing isn't working and you want to try something different, then great. Because at that point, we can be open to exploring other options without conflicting information. And so consciousness definitely has a huge part to play in this, because if inside in our heads we're doubting what we're doing, or somebody else is doubting what we're doing, it's just, that's going to affect our results. Mm-hmm. It doesn't allow us to see with clear vision what is happening. And then we start scrambling again, don't give things enough time to really see what they're doing. Like, I had so many people that say, oh, I quit eating gluten for a week. Didn't make a difference. Oh, okay. Or I quit eating, nightshades for a week, right? Or I have anxiety and I tried meditation once, didn't work. Mm-hmm. And the reality is that, well, yeah, healing is a process. And, in Western medicine, our consciousness has been changed to think that, like, oh, as soon as you figure out the problem, here's the solution, and it's going to solve your problem immediately. It's going to immediately take away whatever it is you're complaining about.
So I want to take a quick break, but let's carry this on after the break. One of the things I want to talk about in what you're bringing up is really focusing on understanding the differences of when you're focused naturally, when you're focused in allopathic medicine, just as a brief thing, because there are important distinctions that I think you're addressing here that will have an impact on where the conversation goes. So give us just a minute. We'll be back in just a minute, and we'll see you in just a sec. All right, we are back and having a great conversation about our journeys in navigating from illness to wellness. And before the break, Eric was talking about his experience and exploring different options and being willing to go the distance with the option to make sure that you're giving it all the due. And two things came to mind that I want to throw into the mix there. And one is understanding that illness doesn't happen in a moment, that in order to get to that state of into that state of unwellness, there had to have been amount of time that things evolved in our own experience. So to expect that something's going to alter and change instantly that took time to get there isn't logical and isn't supportive of the mechanism that our physical body is. And to that point, there's two different approaches. And what we find in allopathic medicine, which is what our current structure of medicine is the idea that we can take a pill and feel better. In wellness, it is about undoing the structure that exists underneath the lack of wellness in order to establish a state of wellness that's different from where we were. That takes time. You're changing chemistry. You're altering stuff within the body that takes time for the systems to get recoordinated. It takes time for, when you take on a new energetic experience, when you raise your vibration, there's an integration time that occurs where everything in the body has to readjust all the way down to the cellular level. The energy fields within the cells have to adjust to this new thing. So it's important to recognize when you're navigating this wellness process that it's not a take a pill and feel better. It's continuing to work on the internal process and moving yourself, setting your goal to that destination, and then taking the journey of whatever, the journey of 1,000 steps. I can't remember what it was, but one step at a time.
Right. Right.
I wanted to throw that in the mix because I think it's important too to recognize, as you're listening to the things that Eric is sharing and what we're talking about, there is a powerful dynamic here that it's important to be aware of.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to a lot of the paradigm of illness that we're kind of dealing with, in society, that this idea that, illness means we're broken. Mm. And then we start to see ourselves like a car, right? And it's like, okay, well, you don't change your oil for a long time, and then you get engine problems, and you have no idea how to fix a car. So you take it to the mechanic, and it's like, oh, your car's broken, right? Versus the reality is that, like, we're humans, we're biological organisms that are self-healing and self-repairing. And so one of the first things that we have to really wrap our heads around is that the disease state is our body coping with less than ideal situations, less than ideal conditions.
Can you say that again? I really love that. Yeah. That's a very powerful statement.
Yeah. Disease is how our bodies deal with less than ideal circumstances. And so we can shift our mindset immediately. When we hear that, we can go, oh, wow, thank you, body. Thank you, body, for knowing how to deal with the mess that I'm making inadvertently. Nobody's doing it on purpose. Right? But if something shifts in our awareness, that we go, wow, I don't want to keep creating this. I want something different. Then we can go, okay, thank you, body, for getting me to this point and giving me wake-up calls, right? Pain and discomfort. Those are the body's, the little dashboard lights saying, hey, buddy, you got to change your oil.
Exactly. And what a great analogy, because oil being the lifeblood of the car, when we're in disease, blood being the life is the life coursing through this body, and the blood's not healthy. It's not able to do the thing it's supposed to do as effectively. Right. So we got to find ways to, shift that. We got to find ways to change the quality of the oil, of the blood, of the system, whatever it is we're focusing on. What do you think, in your experience, was the greatest aha you had in the early part of the process? And I'm particular to the early part because that's where people stumble and fall the most, is not giving themselves the time um, and the space to find healing. What do you think was where do you think that happened for you?
Yeah. Well, so I think a lot of that awareness that, that said to me that, okay, getting well isn't just about making my symptoms disappear. It's about getting to a place where I actually am well. And even if I, wasn't in perfect health, I would have appreciation and gratitude and purpose.
Mm.
And so a big part of that was, discovering healers like Louise Hay and Dr. John Sarno, who said, hey, look, if you are experiencing these problems and you just want the problem to go away without investigating what it means, right? So again, back to the car analogy, that's like, oh man, this light came on my dashboard. Let me go to the mechanic and have him turn it off.
Yeah, you take a screwdriver and shut that light off.
Yeah. Right? So we've gotten caught up in this idea that we can just go and turn off the dashboard lights and not look at what's happening underneath, because the dashboard light is a symptom, right? And
yeah, it's an indicator.
Yeah, it's our bodies communicating with us, and that's pain. That's what pain is. So Dr. Sarno said, he would see this with people where they would come in and they would have this problem, and he was head of special surgery at NYU, and he would give them surgery. Maybe that pain that they had originally would go away, but then they would have pain somewhere else. And then they did a fascinating study. They took people that needed knee surgery, and half of them they didn't actually give surgery to. They just cut them open, stitched them up, sent them home. And shockingly, the group that didn't actually have knee surgery reported less pain than before the surgery at a higher rate than the people that got the actual surgery they needed.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Right.
I'm reminded when I was living in New York, so I was in my late teens. I was an opportunity presented itself that I got to leave New York and move to Arizona. And just before that all came to be, I had gone on a brown rice diet, and that was the fad back in the day. And the brown rice diet was all, you can eat brown rice all day long and you'll lose weight and your body will do all kinds of cool things. And so I was doing this brown rice diet, and I was losing weight, and I'd look at myself and I was having some cheekbones, and I was in New York. I wanted to be an actor and a model, so anything I could do to get the whole body rocking the way I thought it should was the way to go, unbeknownst to me. So I get to Arizona, and my future ex-wife picked me up at the airport and couldn't talk because of what she saw walking toward her when I got to the airport. So my average weight at that time in my life was about 165-ish. That's where I kind of landed most of the time. When I landed in Arizona, I was 104 pounds.
Wow.
And we discovered later on that I had cryptosporidium. I had a very bad parasite in my intestine that was just eating me up. And the focus that we took at that point, because there's not really much in allopathic medicine that can handle, except for really nasty medicines and stuff that I couldn't handle. But the focus that we took initially that I didn't really understand was the first thing that she had me do when we got there. Because I'd moved to Arizona to become a part of a natural healing center. I was going to be actually involved in this healing center and ended up being one of its first people. But the first thing she had me do was to go around on the property and start building rock pathways. And I was like, what? I'm come to Arizona, I'm going to move rocks on path. What are you talking about? And she just said, just go, here, this path needs to be finished. Go finish this path. And literally, I'm moving rocks and boulders all day long. And this went on for, I don't know, 2 weeks. And in the meantime, we were doing other things naturally to help support my body. But that process was the premier process at the moment. And I finally said, this is stupid. Why am I going out and moving rocks every day? And she said, because when I saw you, you looked dead. You look dead. I want you to know you're not dead. You need to know you're still alive. And so going and doing that activity was proving to you that you're still alive. And that was, for me, the most critical thing that happened in my process was the recognition that I am that because I'm ill does not mean I'm powerless. And it doesn't mean I lack energy, and it doesn't mean I lack ability to help move my own process forward. And as a result of that, after coming a year of process of regaining my health, I actually became the director of aliveness for that center. And that was my focus was, we worked with people with AIDS and lupus and cancer and Epstein-Barr and MS and all kinds of different allergies and things. And the first thing that people had to realize was you're not dead.
Yeah.
Find your aliveness, because that's where you're going to find your wellness and your health, is finding your aliveness. Mm-hmm. So that for me was a big shift moment in understanding my responsibility for my own process.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see that a lot in medicine, that a diagnosis is almost a death sentence, right? Because as soon as you get that diagnosis, you have to reorient your GPS to where that diagnosis goes. Is there another way? Is that diagnosis?
I didn't get.
Is that diagnosis, definite? No. I mean, we're humans, mm-hmm. and we're being assessed by other humans, and we can either accept what we're being told and that we have no power, that it's hopeless to do anything except what the doctors say is just gonna keep us alive a little longer. Mm-hmm. Or we can accept that we are not a car, and that we don't just break.
Exactly. Yep, we don't just break. And the other part of that is recognizing that the evolution of the disease process and that consciousness requires a deconstruction.
Yeah.
It requires, because I think what we haven't really maybe we have touched on, but we're so used to talking about it, is that disease is not a physical process. It becomes a physical process. It isn't a physical process to start with.
Right.
And because it's not a physical process, you have to address the non-physical aspects of the generation of the disease process. Now, there are I can hear people saying, yeah, but what about those people who have gene things? What about those people who are born with a predisposition? What about this? And those are all legitimate. But they are all potentiality. And the only reason the potentiality can happen is because of the consciousness that stimulated the potentiality. Mm-hmm. Do you follow that? That it is the consciousness that stimulated the potentiality that ignited that process in the body, and then the continuation of that consciousness helped to support its evolution.
Yeah.
So if it's happened that way to get you there, guess what? It's got to happen that way to get you out.
Right. And there's something to learn. There's something to learn. And so no matter Absolutely. What's happened, right? If you were born with something, or you develop it over time as you age, either we take the opportunity to listen, to understand mm-hmm. what we're supposed to gain from this experience, right? Why we chose, before we were born, our life contract, whatever you want to think, this is why we're here. And so we can either just keep ignoring it, and like Dr. Sarno says, it just keeps coming back. It just keeps coming back. You keep replaying the same trauma, the same disease, until you learn your lesson. Mm-hmm. And if we're open to exploring and listening and understanding and becoming more self-aware on this journey of life, no matter what it is, right? Because even if we are blessed with perfect health and we have other problems that we just want to ignore or make them go away, yeah. Well, then we're not going to learn our lesson there either.
It's a beautiful way to express it, because to me, in a way, when it gets to the point of physicalness, again, awareness, when it gets to the point where your physical body is expressing to you in a fashion to get your attention, it means that your attention hasn't been there for a while. And the body is getting, I love the analogy of the universe will come to you in a whisper. And, they will whisper in your ear. And if you're not paying to the whisper, then it'll talk a little louder. And if you don't want to hear it a little louder, it'll kind of tap you upside the head. And if you don't want to hear the tap upside the head, you get the smack upside the head. And if you don't want to hear that, then here comes the 2x4. Whack! Because, and that's not anybody doing it to you. It's your own consciousness saying, you are moving in a direction that you're not going to like.
Right.
It's not a judgment of you're failing. It's saying, hey, I don't think you want to go that direction. Pay attention. Come over here because this is, pay attention to here. If you fix this, if we work on this, it'll get you where you want to go.
Right. Because at some level, if we're just accepting what's happening and we're not doing work to change it, then at least subconsciously it's what we want.
Exactly.
And if consciously it's not what we want, but we keep getting it, well, then we got to start looking at what's going on subconsciously, right? Because otherwise it doesn't matter if you change your diet, you do everything right, you live a life perfectly from a health standpoint, and you're still not getting the results, then you got to go deeper, because what's happening here, what's happening around us, everything in our life is a reflection of what's going on inside.
Absolutely. We have about, I think we have about 2 minutes, and I'd like to spend that time, if we could, sharing one or two really key elements to understanding how we step into wellness and thriving. And the first one that comes to my mind is understanding what you just said. We are physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual beings. Whenever anything occurs within the construct of our consciousness, it has a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual component. So that's true of everything in our world. So why would it be different for disease? So the first thing to recognize is that if you find yourself in that, if you find yourself in that disease place, look to all the levels, not just, you can look to the physical level for some soothing, but make sure you continue to look at the mental and emotional and spiritual levels for where those are not congruent as well. That would be one thing I would suggest.
Absolutely. And that's a powerful place to start, to say, okay, let's not just look at what hurts right now, because that's a distraction.
Yeah.
So in exercise, I invite all of my clients, or even just, people who are not satisfied with anything in their life, just go and make a list of all the things that you're, tolerating about your life, the things that don't really bring you joy, that don't bring you fulfillment, and see what you can start to change.
Love that. This is a great conversation, and one that I think we could probably continue and even get down more. I find it's funny as I do this more and more, I want to, we pick a topic and I want to bite it off and go for it. And as we dive in, because we go so deep and so clear in it, we have that sometimes I stretch too far to want to get so much information packed into such a short period of time. So I hope that you will come back again and we can carry on another level of this conversation, because I think that it's important for people to everywhere to be able to recognize there's nothing to be afraid of in your health. There's nothing to fear about health. It's all about taking that responsibility and stepping into wellness by changing the energy of where you are. And the first step of that is recognizing how powerful you are within that. So Eric, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of the show. I appreciate you and appreciate the work you're doing. Please go check out Eric, www.ericlevinson.com. He's got the free consult. You can chat with him about your situation, and I guarantee you it will change. Just the conversation alone will change things for you, because his approach and the perspective is so powerful and so it's just so open. It's really awesome, and I don't say that lightly. It's challenging for me to find people that I can share that stuff with, because they understand it in the way that I understand it, and that's powerful medicine in and of itself. So guys, have an incredible day. Have a wonderful weekend. Whatever, I keep babbling now, but Eric, thank you for being here. Have a great day, y'all.
Thanks, Jim. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Adventures in Truth podcast. Thank you for joining us. We'd love to connect with you. Please like us on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube. To learn more about Jim's book, Fear is a Choice, Unraveling the Illusion of Our Separation from Love, or to book a session with Jim, you can email us at adventuresintruth@gmail.com, or you can join us on the web at www.adventuresintruth.com. Tune in next time for another great Adventures in Truth podcast.